welcome to today's video. Today, we're going to be talking about house rules and the rules that you have when you live with roommates. So first, think about which of these situations would be the worst and why. Having a roommate who always turns off your music, or a roommate who doesn't clean up, a roommate who doesn't put things away or who doesn't share the chores. What about a roommate who gets up late every day, or who has friends over all the time? Someone who uses your things without asking, or who wakes you up early. Think about these so we can discuss in class. Great. Now, go to Student Book page 75, exercise 3B. We're going to listen to 4 people talk about their roommates. What was each person's problem? Please check A or B.
Page 75. 3. Listening and speaking. My worst roommate. B. Listen to 4 people talk about roommates. What was each person's problem? Check A or B. Then listen again and write one thing each roommate didn't do. 1. Mark.
Last year I worked at a summer camp, and I had to share with my roommate, who was a nice guy, except he could not wake up in the mornings. Not that that was a big deal, but for some unknown reason, he didn't bring his cell phone or an alarm clock to the camp, so he used my phone as an alarm clock, which was okay at first. Well, it was a bit annoying because he just took it without asking, and then he never gave it back. Then I found out he'd actually used it to make a few calls, and he hadn't asked me first. And that's when I ran out of patience. In the end, I took the battery out so he couldn't use it. It was kind of mean, but it was driving me crazy.
2. Hannah.
I had just started a new job in a new city, and I saw a posting on the internet for an apartment to share with someone in another department in my company. She seemed okay. We had similar tastes in music and movies and sense of humor. But after about a month, things weren't good. For example, she never took the trash out. Never. And it was always me who cleaned up after she had friends over for meals and stuff. I didn't mind that she had her friends over. They were fun. But it was always me who put the table and chairs back and everything. So anyway, we finally sat down and went over it all, and I said it wasn't working out. She just couldn't see what the problem was and said if I didn't like the way she lived, I could move out. And in the end, I did, 'cause, I suppose I just couldn't put up with the mess any longer.
3. Emilio.
I had to share a hotel room with a colleague one time for 2 weeks. We were on a training program together, and I know I'm kind of a neat freak, but this guy was just amazing. I don't think he knew what a closet was. He would walk in the door and literally kick his shoes off in the air, and wherever they landed is where he left them. He never put them away in the closet. I kept finding his clothes, especially his dirty socks, under my bed, which was really annoying. He didn't pick up his dirty laundry off the floor, not once. I did it. I suppose I should have said something or come up with some rules or something about cleaning up our own mess, but I never said anything. But next time a training session comes up, I'll ask if I can have my own room.
4. Cassie.
When I was in college, I shared a dorm room with the worst roommate you can imagine. There was food and clothes everywhere. I mean, she didn't clean her mess up or pick her clothes up. She was even sleeping with leftover food under her bed, which was disgusting. So finally, I asked her to clean it up. And boy, she just lost her temper with me and said it was none of my business, and she called her mom. And I don't know what her mom said, but she didn't like it, so she was yelling and throwing stuff around. Finally, I called housing, and they moved her to another dorm.
Okay, so Mark's problem was that his roommate used his things without asking, right? Hannah's roommate didn't share the chores. Emilio's roommate didn't put things away. And Cassie's roommate never cleaned up. Okay, let's continue. Now, I want you to please read the sentences and think about what is special about the words in bold. And can you separate them? Pause the video while you think about this. Okay, so if you notice, all of the words in bold are phrasal verbs. Now, if you can separate them or not, well, it depends on the phrasal verb, but we're going to take a look at that in a moment. So let's continue. I want you to please read the sentences again, but this time I need you to identify the objects in each sentence. Do all of the verbs have an object? I don't usually have friends over. In this case, the object is friends, right? Because they are the ones who visit me. My mom keeps running out of cash. Well, in this case, the object is cash, right? Now, pause the video and try to work on the other sentences. Let's see. He always comes up with great ideas for his job. Well, the object is great ideas for his job. We're looking forward to celebrating her birthday. The object is celebrating her birthday. When I get back late, I try to come in as quietly as possible. Well, if you notice, in this sentence, we don't have an object, so that answers our second question. Do all of the verbs have an object? No, they don't. So let's continue. Now, looking at this, we need to identify which verbs are transitive and which ones are intransitive. Now, you may be wondering what that means. Transitive verbs take objects. Intransitive verbs do not. So for example, I don't usually have friends over. Since I have an object, this verb is transitive. That's correct. My mom keeps running out of cash. Again, since I have an object, this is a transitive verb. He always comes up with great ideas for his job. Once again, this is a transitive verb. We are looking forward to celebrating her birthday. Transitive. When I get back late, intransitive because we don't have an object, I try to come in as quietly as possible. Come in is transitive because there's no object. So remember, if you have an object, something that receives the action, then the verb is transitive. If there's no object, it is intransitive. Let's practice. Read these 4 sentences and identify the transitive and intransitive verbs, please. Pause the video. Let's see. They sat down to rest. This verb is intransitive. My brother had his friends over last weekend. This verb is transitive because we have an object, his friends. Remember to clean up the kitchen after you finish cooking. This one is, of course, transitive. We have an object, the kitchen. My sister tends to show up at the last minute. Show up is an intransitive verb. It doesn't have an object. Did you get this right? Great. Let's continue. Now, transitive verbs. Here I have some examples, right? As you know, they have a direct object. Now, can you separate transitive phrasal verbs? Yes. Some transitive phrasal verbs can be separated. But if the object is too long, we cannot separate the verb. Also, sometimes we have a fixed order. For example, have someone over. My friend had his friends over last weekend is correct. This verb is separable. You have to separate it all the time. It is not correct to say, my brother had over his friends last weekend. That sentence doesn't make sense. Take a look at the other one. Remember to clean up the kitchen after you finish cooking. This sentence is correct. If you notice, I have all of my phrasal verbs together. Clean up. Look at the other version. Remember to clean the kitchen up after you finish cooking. This sentence is also correct. Clean up is a separable phrasal verb, but you decide if you want to separate it or not. Okay, let's continue. Now, for intransitive verbs. Remember that they do not have a direct object. Can you separate intransitive phrasal verbs? Well, no, definitely you cannot. Since you don't have a direct object, intransitive phrasal verbs cannot be separated. Let's continue. Now, please go to student book page 75. Exercise B. Here, we need to write the words in parentheses in the correct place in the sentences. If there is more than one possible answer, please write both. Let's take a look at the first one. Are you looking to have in your own place? We have to use the word forward. Where should we write it? In this case, we only have one possible answer. Are you looking forward to having your own place? Do you plan to move with anyone? Where should we write in? To move in with anyone. Now pause the video and work on the rest, please. Okay, let's see. Come up with any rules for your home? What are they? Do you always clean up any mess right away? Or do you always clean any mess up right away? If you notice, since there were two answers, my arrows are in green because both options will be fine. What problems do you have? Do things usually work out? Has a friend ever shown up early or late and woken up your family or woken your family up? If you had a problem with your neighbors, would you put up with it? Or would you have them over and go over things? Do you borrow things from neighbors if you run out of them? Do you give them back right away? Did you have these answers? Great job. Let's continue. Now, please go to your workbook page 51, exercise B. We need to complete the anecdote using the words in parentheses. Please write them in the correct order in place. Just notice that sometimes there is more than one correct answer. Look at the example. My roommate's just so annoying. She wakes me up every morning. She's always running cash and forgets to pay the bills. She's always running out of cash. Now pause the video and work on the rest, please. Okay, we're going to check in class. Now, work on exercise A, also in the workbook page 51. Here, you need to unscramble the words in parentheses to complete the house rules. Let's do the first one. When you have to get up early, try not to wake the entire household up. Or, if you prefer, wake up the entire household. Pause the video and work on the rest, please. Okay, we're going to share this in class and we're going to check our answers. I will see you then. Bye-bye!